We have started a new era for the Eighth Doctor in the form of Audacity.
Oh, we have indeed. And it's off to a pretty strong start, I would say.
Honestly, I'm just going to kick it off now and say one of the best releases of the year so far.
Oh, it's definitely a strong one. I think you like it even more than me, actually.
Mm,
I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm certainly not as in love with The Devouring as you are, the first episode from the set. But the second one, which is, the main meat, it's your two-parter, The Great Cyber War by Tim Foley. I adore it. I mean,
It's the
yeah,
main
we're
reason
sort
you're picking this setup. It's like old friends. As soon as you knew the Cybermen were in it, you're like, I need that.
of. I mean, it's also a similar structure to what we had this time last year with the Eighth Doctor Adventures in What Lies Inside, where that was, a big two-parter with a big classic villain, the Daleks in that case, Cybermen this time. And then you sort of have a little bonus episode there that can be any quality really, but as long as the main meat of the set is as strong as they are, which I mean both were very strong stories,
Mm.
then it makes up for it really, doesn't it? Because you want that two-parter to be strong. But yeah, before we do talk more about the Great Cyber War, the Great Cyber War,
Yes.
let's dive into the Devouring a bit. The one-part story by Lisa McMullen, which introduces us to Lady Audacity Montague, the Eighth Doctor's new companion, played by Jay Griffiths, who's worked for Big Finish for a little while, hasn't she?
Yeah. She's done a
Yeah.
few releases.
Yeah, and that's sort of like their standard thing often with new companions, isn't it? Is they find an actor they like working with. In this case, it's an actor who Paul McGann liked working with. They got along well when she played Hieronyma Friend in Time War 5 Cass. And so here they've sort of given her this companion role and just let her spend more time with Paul McGann, really. And yeah, it's a story that's all about her, this first episode. Like, I think for the first 15 to 20 minutes, the Doctor is hardly in it. It's almost more like Rose, isn't it? Where he's
Yeah.
in the periphery. He's always ever present. You always feel him there, but Paul McGann's not necessarily got many lines to deliver at first.
It's very much like the Visitation in a way. How that kick starts with, start like shooting stars across the sky. Um,
Mm.
and we follow Audacity's love for the stars, and obviously she's got quite an interesting relationship with her husband.
Yeah, and society in general, really,
Yes,
because
yeah,
she is from the 19th century, like early 19th, isn't it? Like
yeah,
1810 around
Regency,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, Regency era. And so she's very much railing against that, even though she is a woman with a fair amount of money in a sense. She also doesn't have that much because it descends from her husband. At that time, if the husband died first, then all his wealth went with him, really, and the widow was
yeah.
left with nothing. And, she is very much railing against that and championing the poor and equality. And, she's aware of that privilege that she has as well, which makes for rather a nice, rounded character, I would
Mm.
say. I mean, sometimes it gets maybe a bit much, but I think that's sort of the point because, when you're up against all this injustice, you would speak up against that quite rightly.
Yeah,
And so the story even makes a point to say that, you know, a lot of people find her a bit much, but her husband quite rightly puts it better too much than not enough.
mm.
And yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful scene between the three of them in the carriage. I think that was the point where I started to get more on board with the story. I was a bit unsteady with it at first. I feel like maybe the world building wasn't as strong as it could have been. I didn't feel drawn into that world, that Regency era world that they were
Oh, I
trying
loved it.
to
I loved
paint
it.
here.
I
No,
thought
I
it
mean,
was
are
quite
you?
Pride and Prejudice, in a way. You can
I mean,
imagine McGann being like a Mr. Darcy figure, really.
he fits very well into it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he
I mean, I
does.
think there's even that worry, isn't there, from the husband that he's gonna steal his
Which
wife away.
ultimately he does.
Yeah, not quite in the way he expected,
Yeah,
but yeah, there certainly is that element to it. I mean, you also feel like there's quite a strong early Big Finish feel to this episode as well, don't you?
yeah, it feels very sort of early McGann, it's sort of, very Charlie era
Mm.
type stuff, which is there's a good reason why it fits that very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
set early on in his timeline, isn't it? That was sort of the whole point of this new beginning, was that we were going back before Dark Eyes, before
mm,
Lucy, to this time. And yeah, I think it's nice that we are getting to explore different eras of the Eighth Doctor's life, be it Time War or sort of the pre-Time War stuff, the Blue Leather Jacket era. But now we're
mm.
back with Lord Byron, aren't we?
Yeah, which I think ultimately is my favorite type of McGann. You get that sort of lover of life.
You very
Um,
much feel that.
and I think the concept of the idea of this sort of shooting star attaching itself to this person's such a brilliant idea. Because we've all watched The Night Sky and, seen shooting stars and the idea of this.
Yeah. The idea of
Um,
something looking back
yeah, the idea
and
of this
wishing on a
malevolent,
star.
yeah, this malevolent alien coming to take everything you know and love.
Mm. I mean, I think it also works very well with the themes of this episode, this monster and the way it plays into that, and very personal ones for Lady Audacity Montague herself as well, without getting too in depth in that. I mean, cast wise, they're all doing a very good job here, but I was surprised when the end credits were being read out to hear that Joseph Milson was Ignatius
Yes,
Montague, because we obviously all know him
Alan.
as Maria's dad. Yes, Alan. But it's surprising how well he disguises his voice. Like, you, I forget how much range he has, because he's done it again in 10th Doctor Classic Companions, where he was playing a character and was
Mm.
able to completely transform his voice. I was floored with that. But obviously, the main star is Jay Griffiths here, doing a
Mm.
wonderful job.
Yeah, because you get these nice little. You can. It's a bit like the Mary Shelley stuff, because you have like Mary Shelley writing in a diary, and you can imagine Audacity sort of write like journaling throughout this story.
Hmm. I love the note it ends on as well.
Yes.
I think that's a wonderful little piece of writing from her.
Mm.
So it's a wonderful little start here, I'd say. I think certainly a bit up and down for me, but maybe now that I appreciate what it was going for,
Mhm.
I'd have more joy out of the first half, like you evidently did.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think the
yeah,
music's great, especially when you get onto the devouring sort of ship, how
I
it
love the
becomes quite.
sound effects of the
Yes.
devouring as well.
It's very sort of twisted, and it's naturally sort of quite janky and eerie in the best way
Mm,
possible.
yeah, it certainly sends a chill down the spine, I would say. Yeah. What would you give the devouring out of 10 then?
I would say a solid 8.
I'll go 7.
Okay.
Not quite meet you, but yeah.
Hmm.
I think having time to sit on this story has made me appreciate it more. So, yeah. But now, what everyone's been waiting
Take it
for,
away. Take it away.
The Great Cyber War by Tim Foley. It is absolutely brilliant. I think Nick Briggs puts it best towards the end of the extras, where he's talking about what a treasure Tim Foley is to Big Finish, what a great find and writer he is, how he is able to really take, the classic Who approach, that style and those ideas, but inject it with emotion in a way that doesn't feel at odds with classic Who. Like Nick Briggs cites the golf from 2021's For Doctor Adventures as an example of that, which is a brilliant story. And he's right. He's done the same thing here, really. I would say it's got that classic adventure feel. It works wonderfully with the worlds that's built up across Revenge of the Cybermen. This is
It expands on it so much.
Yeah, it really does a good job expanding on that lore, both Vogan and Cyberman. And yeah, there's just so much wonderful thematic stuff in this story. It's sort of like brings in an Oppenheimer type character.
Yes, even
Who,
references it as well.
yeah, it brings the man himself up and is definitely taking inspiration from those moral ideas from times of war, where things get clouded, really. And very much exploring that in an interesting way. I think you have quite a multi-layered character there in Oberon Fix. And then the way that foreshadows for the Doctor as well what is to come in the Time War. And so,
Yes,
like,
yes.
it's so thematically rich. There is so much wonderful stuff like that. You have Audacity in this incredible environment, just cutting straight through the bullshit, really,
Yeah.
and calling out the injustices there. But at the same time, showing in these times of war that, things aren't as black and white as she maybe is used to in her life before that. And she's not aware of the Cybermen. This is her first adventure, and she's separated from the Doctor pretty early on. And so that leaves her in an interesting position later on in the story. But yeah, the stakes are high. It's a wonderful two-part format. It feels very similar to a new series style two-parter where you have that build-up across part one, and then it's an incredible cliffhanger, and it all explodes in part two, where you get a lot of your action, some great scenes, great performances from Paul McGann,
Yes.
particularly, I think, towards the end. He goes through so much range there. There's sort of, with his confrontation with the cyber leader, you have a real weight on his shoulders, but at the same time, he's able to inject some fun into some of those lines as well while trying to rile up the cyber leader and such.
There's some nice twists with that, with the emotions of the Cybermen within this, how it plays with that.
Yeah, I think Nick Briggs as well doing a wonderful performance
Yeah.
there, channeling Christopher Robbie, isn't he? I mean, how did you find that the more hands-on hips style cyber leader?
Yeah.
But you can imagine it when he first appears as well.
Honestly, it's so lovely because I know Nick's been quite resistant, maybe because he's not a fan of it. But honestly,
Yeah.
having them there, it just added such an authentic flair, and I think he's one of the sort of unsung heroes of this release because honestly, he made it for me. And there's a wonderful sort of Plant of the Dalek Supreme moment with the Cyber Leader has within this.
Yeah, this is a cyber leader with attitude, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like,
all the sass, hand on hips intensifies.
yeah, it's a wonderful performance there. I like the effects for the voice as well. Like, it's not entirely authentic to Revenge of the Cybermen because it's trying to add a little bit more ring modulation to it, isn't it? But without
Yeah.
losing the
But
performance
you can imagine
behind it.
there's a helmet, there's a mask over Nick with it.
Yeah,
So
it's the
nice.
best of both worlds, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that is amazing. Some wonderful scenes of the Cybermen, really, the horror that they present. It goes to some dark and heavy places, this story.
Especially McGann explaining what a Cyberman is to Audacity. That's when it starts to hit home going, oh, this is why the Cybermen are scary.
Yeah. I mean, Audacity coming from a very different world as well. I think you almost get some Leela-esque moments for her, I found, like particularly in Jay Griffith's delivery of lines. Like when she's talking about fire extinguisher. I don't know if you felt that, but yeah, I
Yes.
got
Yeah.
that sort of vibe from her performance. But it doesn't feel wrong either. And she is definitely a very different character from Leela. But there's some similarities there as well, with them perhaps being a bit more willing to take up arms in
Yeah.
order to fight evil, which obviously something the Doctor isn't improving of.
Yeah.
But he's a bit more warm to Audacity than the Fourth Doctor was to Leela, at least. So yeah, I think that all plays out wonderfully. The way it takes a lot of the lore from the original Revenge of the Cybermen story and plays with that is wonderful. I think, again, Nick Briggs put it quite rightly in the extras that sometimes that can be a bit over the top and rub up the story the wrong way.
Yeah, it's like a cannon plaster, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, I had that feeling from a story like Last of the Cybermen, how that deals. It feels like, a checklist. Here, it just feels perfectly natural. It's worked in such a brilliant way. And yeah, what it builds towards is so brilliant. I can't get enough of this one. It's one of my favorite stories of the year.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's quite nice. There's a nice parallel to how the Charlie stuff opened. It. Charlie's second story was Sword of Orion, again, 8th Doctor Cyberman story. So it's quite nice that this release parallels the start of the Charlie stuff, really.
Yeah, I mean, same for the Mary Shelley stuff as well. Her second story was a Cyberman story. Yeah. So yeah, if you're an 8th Doctor companion with the TV movie McGann, then you're going to meet the Cybermen in your second story, it seems. That's just the way these things go.
But it feels long overdue.
A female one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
It feels long overdue since we've had McGann and Cybermen, so I think it's quite refreshing to have McGann and Cybermen because it's a combo that works so well, and, McGann doesn't have a bad Cyberman story.
No. This keeps up that trend.
It does.
Yeah, it's also using the more recent motifs that they have for the Cybermen. They've sort of if you've listened to Old Friends, Lost Warriors, 41, you'll know there's that clanging music, isn't there, that they've come up with for the Cybermen. At first, I was a bit iffy on them using it across different Doctors.
Yeah.
But I think here it works particularly well. It suits this story. And I mean, the music as a whole, the atmosphere that it all creates, I think is wonderful.
Yeah, I was sort of expecting sort of Revenge of the Cybermen style music, which would have been quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they resisted the urge to do that, though. I think it all comes together beautifully.
Yes, it does indeed.
From every perspective. So, yeah, I mean, out of 10, again.
Easy 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really had a good time.
I mean, I'm going 10, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm being generous. I really did love this one. And yeah, just the more I think about it, the more I adore, the themes of it and the fun that can be had with it.
I think there's a lot to unpack, so I think re-listenings will probably make it be more insightful, picking up on more little Easter eggs and details.
Yeah. I just can't think of anything I disliked about it, really.
No.
And, that's not necessarily an automatic 10 out of 10, because sometimes just because something's got nothing wrong with it doesn't mean it has much right with it either. But in this case, it just does everything so well. I mean, yeah, maybe 9.5, but I'll round it up. I'll be generous. It's a 10 from me.
No, go for it.
And so a 9 overall from this box set for me as well.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So definitely get around to picking this one up and do it soon, because there is a cliffhanger. Yeah. That could be spoiled if you're not quick on your toes with this one. Yeah. Any last thoughts on Audacity?
What a perfect tonic. It's a release that reminds you why Big Finish is great at what it does.
Yeah, and I think particularly Tim Foley gets what Big Finish is and should be. And Lisa McMullen as well has created a wonderful character here with Audacity. And I look forward to hearing the many adventures she goes on, continuing next month with In the Bleak Midwinter.
Very excited for it. I want it now. I need it now.
But at the same time, it's nice that we get to save that one for Christmas, because
true.
It's a Christmas listen. 3 Christmas listens, even. So, yeah. Exciting stuff is ahead for us. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching. Let us know what you thought of Audacity below. Leave a like, subscribe for our In the Bleak Midwinter review next month, and many other reviews, videos, all that great stuff, streams as well. one of those. Hopefully coming again soon. We've not done one for a little while, but
Yes.
we've got a big one planned. We're looking forward to it.
Mm.
So yeah, thank you all for watching.